Everyone. My name is Mary Ellen Hurtado, and again, welcome everyone to our Advances in E-commerce webinar. We hope today you find our webinar and the information that we provide useful, and mostly we wish to spark a conversation on the subject to allow greater focus and direction for e-commerce packaging. During this presentation, if you have any questions or need any clarification, please use the chat function on your screen. As some of my colleagues and I will be monitoring all of the chats. If we don't get to your questions during the presentation or at the end of the presentation, we will be answering all chats over the course of the next 24 hours. As a reminder, all attendees will receive an email with a link to a recording of this webinar. Your presenter today is BJ Raddick, Regional Sales Manager with Selig Group. He will be presenting today's webinar, Advances in E-commerce. Thank you.
Everyone for joining. Thank and like to recognize Mary Ellen from our global marketing team, who has been integral in helping produce today's webinar. So the brief agenda, we're going to go through a high-level overview of Selig. We're going to talk about e-commerce packaging and the guidelines for shipping packages. We're also going to talk about vented liners and then leave time for questions and answers. At Selig, we have 5 manufacturing facilities in total, 3 of which are in North America. We have a facility in Forest, Illinois, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and in Ontario, Canada. We also have 2 operations in Europe, one in England and one in Switzerland. And then the Naperville location serves as our corporate headquarters. Selig is divided into 4 divisions. We have the liners division, the flexibles, technical, and the most recent addition to the team is the performance systematics group. The flexible division is based out of our Swiss operation. They make flexible packaging used for biscuits and cookies, confectionery application, as well as cheese wrappers. The technical division is also based out of the Swiss operation. They produce highly engineered laminates. The materials are used for the Department of Defense, for hazmat suits, other applications such as venting membranes for gas masks. And then we have the recent addition of the performance systematics team. They provide venting solutions to the industry. But today we're going to talk about Selig liners as it relates to e-commerce and also vented liner technologies. Clearly, with the growth of e-commerce and especially the shipping of liquids, brand owners have found our induction seals to be the most cost-effective and quickest way to satisfy e-commerce shipping requirements. And we'll talk about that in some detail. E-commerce consumers are still being offered packages that were designed for the retail shelf, not necessarily ideal for package and e-com distribution. E-commerce packaging needs to meet the rather rigorous distribution channel, but also needs to reflect the brand image that consumers are used to, but in a way that can stand out on the virtual shelf. Obviously, as it relates to e-commerce, the package itself must protect the product throughout distribution. The package should be easy to open, easy to access, and dispense. And the package that you see on the store shelf should be the same consistent package that you receive through e-commerce channels, also with the intent of avoiding over packaging. Most recently, preformed custom cartons are not really practical, especially if you're shipping a large number of SKUs. Now, box on demand or on the fly carton customization is actually gaining in popularity. I saw that Amazon recently purchased an Italian company called CMC that makes equipment to produce box on demand. So we expect that to continue to grow. Everyone is familiar with the traditional distribution channel. Packages are filled, they're case packed, and then put into onto a pallet. Pallets are then put onto a truck for transit, and then put on the store shelf. The customer experience, you're able to obviously take the package off the shelf, read the label, read the nutritional value, and you can make informed purchasing decisions versus e-commerce, which is a little bit different. Obviously, the consumer uses their smartphone or tablet or computer to shop and then place the order online. The custom package the product is custom packaged for shipping, and that goes through the transit system and then shipped for local delivery. Then the doorbell rings and the dogs start barking, and you're probably on a conference call. Then you ask the wife to shut the dogs up, and then your wife tells you to go back to the office and work from the office from now on. And that's how the fight started. So interestingly, for liquid products, the major overnight and expedited delivery services have all produced guidelines, specific guidelines to ensure leak prevention. FedEx and UPS both are actively promoting the use of induction seals through their guidelines. FedEx says that the package should be positioned upright, and that the use of an inner seal and perforated breakaway cap is recommended. And it says the package must be able to contain leaks. UPS goes on to say that they want to make certain that the caps are covered and applied securely, which is interesting, so it does not loosen during transit. They go on to say add a heat induction foil to prevent leakage. They say when shipping liquids in a sealed bottle, apply closures with the correct application torque. This is very interesting that UPS would actually have the wherewithal and understanding of the fundamental and critical importance of application torque in getting a successful seal and a consistent seal. In addition to FedEx and UPS, Amazon has detailed specifications for the packaging of liquids. They say a double seal is required, which involves a secure closure, as well as a safety seal, which is an induction seal, or a manufactured seal around the neck of the container, which would be like a PVC shrink band or a PVC or a complete shrink label. And the problem with the shrink sleeve is that it's there to keep the closure from backing off and to contain leaks into the threads and neck, not necessarily contain the leaks completely. Not a condition that the e-commerce consumer would find acceptable or expected. And then the alternative to a double seal solution, like an induction seal, is to individually polybag each liquid bottle. And of course, the polybag must have a suffocation warning published on the polybag itself. And the message is the polybags are very expensive. Amazon is actually charging 50 cents per polybag if they are required to put a liquid in through their e-commerce channels. So 50 cents per container or per bag is much more cost prohibitive than simply introducing an induction seal to prevent leaks. Interesting to note, Sealy was recently listed in Amazon's APAS network as a company that has been trained and is experienced in the tiered Amazon packaging certification process. If anybody has any questions about the APAS certification program, we'd be happy to help assist you offline. We found the process to be very educational and worthwhile. Now you'll see the picture on the left shows a liquid that is sealed with an induction seal. Obviously, it's a consumer-friendly presentation. The brand owner presentation is as it was originally intended, meaning what the package that you see on the store shelf is the same exact package that you get through the e-commerce channels. The package obviously protects the product, and also by preventing leaks, prevents other packages in transit from getting any damage. Obviously, you have the option to use a tamper-evident induction seal or a clean peel induction seal. Packages with induction seals do have a history of passing the standardized drop tests versus those packages without seals. And obviously, it's designed to withstand the rigors of the shipping process. Option number 2 on the right side shows a spray bottle, some kind of a cleaning product that is packaged inside one of those reclosable and very expensive polyethylene bags. Obviously, when the consumer gets the product, it's a bit difficult to access. You have to open up the poly bag to access the bottle. There may or may not be a liquid in the polyethylene bag that the consumer will certainly have to deal with. It's only tamper evident if a shrink sleeve is used, and this package may or may not pass the standardized drop test. Now let's talk about some of the guidelines for shipping packages. Some interesting things to point out is the use of induction foil inner seals versus a pressure sensitive liner. Number one, it's important to note that pressure sensitive liners are not recommended for liquid products. I can tell you that there are some applications out there in the marketplace that use pressure sensitive for liquid packages, although it is not recommended. I kind of view it as maybe a band-aid approach to satisfy the functional requirement, but pressure sensitive materials do not provide a hermetic seal, and they do not prevent leaking. Certainly not to the extent that induction seals would, because they do provide a true hermetic seal, prevent leaking, can provide tamper evidence, and obviously extend shelf life and help preserve the freshness of the product itself. And interesting to note, the induction seals not only are there to prevent leaking, as stated, they also extend the shelf life of the product being packaged. They can provide a level of brand protection or anti-counterfeit technology in some cases. The induction seal does seal in the factory freshness and can provide a tamper evident seal. As you see here, it's the foil residue that stays on the lip of the container that is the tamper indicating device for the consumer versus a peelable structure that does not leave residue on the lip of the container. And also the induction seals prevent contamination. Some things to just consider when packaging liquids are certainly the fill height and the temperatures at which the product is filled. It's important to go through the proper liner selection process. So you want to be sure that fundamentally you have the proper induction seal for the application. And then when running filling the product, you need to ensure that you have a consistent operating window set up so that you achieve consistent seals ongoing basis. Some additional considerations, obviously the amount of pressure that the package might be exposed to. If it's either at a low altitude or shipped to a high altitude, those changes in the internal pressure of the package might require pressure equalization or venting. And then if the package is shipped via air freight, it's possibly shipped in an unpressurized cargo hold. We'll talk a little bit about vented liners and their use for liquid applications. As I said, we're extremely excited to add the Performance Systematics group to our team. They specialize in providing venting solutions for the market and have done great work with relation to vented membranes for liquid containers. Obviously, these membranes, you can see here in this photograph, this is a small venting membrane, typically made of like a Tyvek, a Gore-Tex, a PTFE valve that allows pressure to equalize within the package and prevent the liquid from escaping or leaking out of the package itself. So really appreciate your time. Would like to answer any questions you have. Just as a reminder, all questions will be answered via email. All registrants will receive a link to the recorded webinar. We ask that you stay tuned for future webinars in this series. We'll have additional webinars in the months to come. And we'd like to get your input. If there are specific topics that you would like us to cover through this free webinar series, we would love to hear from you. And then we encourage you to reach out to your sales managers or customer service personnel if you need any specific assistance. So with that, we'll open it up to some questions. We've got a few that have come through the system already. Here's a question. Are heat induction liners required for e-commerce? The simple answer is no. Induction seals are not quote unquote required, but clearly based on the input from Amazon, Federal Express, and UPS, as well as the United States Postal Service, there is a clear preference or maybe a recommendation that induction seals do provide that leak prevention that is required. So if it's not necessarily required but highly encouraged, the other option, as stated, was to put a container without an induction seal in a reclosable polyethylene bag to capture any potential leaks. But thanks for the question. Another one is, how can packaging help the e-commerce customer experience? How can packaging help the e-commerce customer experience? Well, as a consumer, I have purchased liquid products that have arrived in a polyethylene reclosable bag that has liquid actually in the bottom. It was a package that had some concentrated bleach, and the bleach leaked within the polyethylene bag, and I had to go and dispose of that separately, which was, obviously an inconvenience to say the least. Getting a package through e-com that is sealed and has no leak obviously has a tremendous impact for customer satisfaction. There's another question: is e-commerce expected to continue to grow after the pandemic and people return to brick and mortar stores? Yeah, absolutely. We know that e-commerce is going to continue to grow. I saw a publication from Visual Capitalist that stated from 2019 to 2022, the shipment of food and beverage products through e-commerce grew 44.8% in North America from 2019 to 2022. And all indications are that will continue into the years to come. Excellent questions. If there are any other questions, please send them through the chat system. Again, if we do not get to your question through this webinar, they will be answered through email separately within 24 hours. And as stated, this webinar recording will be available to all registrants. I think that's going to wrap things up for this morning. Really appreciate everyone joining, and look forward to working with you guys on any e-commerce packaging requirements in the future. Thank you all very much and have a great day.